Hi everyone, Pat here. Welcome to a new YouTube upload. This week we're going to be taking a look at the higher time frame outlook for the market, mostly looking at Bitcoin and altcoins. Not going to touch on Ethereum really, and maybe I'll do a higher time frame outlook for Ethereum, but I generally want to discuss the outlook for Bitcoin and why I am projecting us to trade much higher over the next few months towards Q4 of this year. So obviously, despite the breakout, my thoughts haven't changed on BTC. I was meant to do this video on Wednesday and unfortunately I didn't get around to it. So it's been delayed a bit to today. So I'm getting around to that today. But since Wednesday, obviously we've had a really nice breakout from Bitcoin, but this breakout hasn't changed my vision. If you've been following my channel for a while now or following me on Twitter or in the Wealth Group Discord, you know that I have been buying Bitcoin for the past two or just over 2 weeks. I've been buying Bitcoin every day. I'm scaling into Bitcoin spot, and I will continue to be buying Bitcoin spot over the next 2 months towards the end of August, with a plan on selling towards September onwards, likely towards October, and selling in Q4. But yet again, another breakout from Bitcoin, and funnily enough, it has been this easy over the past couple of years, in the fact that as soon as the daily has broken out from this mean line, we have basically seen a breakout from BTC every single time. We saw that for the bottom back down in April, and again we're seeing here a similar thing, BTC breaking out after accepting above the meme line trend. So yeah, lots to talk about today. Going to be discussing my price predictions, my rough timeline for the cycle, how far in I think we are, and then why I think altcoins are going to get a really good window over the next few months into Q4. I think we are close to, not that I like to chuck it around. I don't like to chuck the word alt season around at the moment, because I think alt season can be paired with the crazy price action we had back in 2021, and I believe that we won't see something like that again. But I do think we will get a very good window of opportunity over the next couple of weeks for sure, and I'll talk about that why, and then even more so in Q4. So first off, I want to touch on the M2 lead for BTC. So the looking at the global liquidity compared to BTC and the 10-week lead, and the 10-week lead on the global liquidity on the M2 continues to make higher highs, and this is looking us at August into September now, 10 weeks ahead, right? So this is where I'll be buying my spot into, and we have been paired to the M2 basically since the January low. The 10-week lead has been spot on. I'm predicting price movements for Bitcoin, and has been a very good indicator for the trend, and one of the main reasons I have been buying Bitcoin over the past couple of weeks, and why I will continue to buy Bitcoin until the 10-week lead looks like it's topping out, and we'll look at selling out towards that 10-week lead top, and looking at other factors as well. But yeah, M2 continues to look good. Commented on this a lot on my Twitter and on my YouTube. Not something to be fading personally. Now looking at the dollar, looking pretty bearish right now, again breaking down under this $99 region. Looks to be accepting under here. In the past two occasions where the DXY locked a bearish trend under 99 was back in 2017 and 2018, and then again back in 2020 and 2021. You can see during this downtrend, when the DXY locked in the breakdown under 99, we can see how Bitcoin performed. Right, in this occasion, Bitcoin went on to do this sort of like final parabolic run, and then the same case for August into September 2020 as well, into 2021, the exact same thing. As soon as the DXY locked in this bearish trend, Bitcoin rallied super hard, and we can already see since the DXY lost the $99 region back in April, we can see how Bitcoin bottomed, and I expect this to continue to rally towards October, which I will get onto shortly. But we can see around 270 days from the breakdown. I've got this from the deviation from the highs, but 270 days from here would put us around November, December. We can see similar thing back to 2021, and then also back to 2018 as well. But yeah, Bitcoin starts to make its final run when the dollar locks in this bearish trend, especially if Feds start to cut rates in summer. Very low chances, but just if they did, then this would be very positive for risk assets, and I expect the market to go bonkers. So now talking about why I think we're sort of moving into this last expansion period for Bitcoin. We can see during Bitcoin cycles, we get this pre-bullish run, this consolidation, followed by the expansion, and the consolidation usually happens towards this this sort of higher time frame monthly trend line, and then we eventually get this break from this trend where the market goes on to really expand and break away from its fair value, so to speak, right? This is kind of Bitcoin trading at its fair value. It goes to break from its fair value, and then what happens? We go into the bear market. Same thing again. Bitcoin starts to trade up, pre-bull period, trades in its fair value, has a pre-breakout consolidation, expansion. Same thing again, right? Bear market, pre-bull, fair value, right? This is the fair value almost. Price breaks, fair value, consolidation, expansion. Again, bear market, pre-bull, consolidation. And now I do believe that we're moving into this expansion period where Bitcoin goes on to make this final leg up, and we see this sort of like parabolic break from the fair value, which we're yet to see from Bitcoin. And whether that's down to the market just simply being way more mature this time around with ETFs and much larger buyers, right? Since we also know that volatility is down towards, you know, August 23 levels, June 2024 levels, and then July 2020 levels, you know, I expect some big volatility expansion at some point, but this might just be because of the maturity of the market now. Maybe we are just trading in a new market and a new paradigm almost, you know, so we have to think about that sort of thing. Although I still expect some sort of break from fair value. I think this price action happens in bull markets. It happens in euphoric periods of trading, and I think we are close to getting this expansion from Bitcoin. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the timeline. Again, looking at fib trend tool. This has been a very useful tool for me, using the 0.618, the 1 and the 1.32 on the time. So fib time based rather than fib time price based. We can see it has had 100% hit ratio of marking the top of the cycle every time within this red 1 to 1.382. The way this is drawn is essentially that we draw it from to mark the future of the bull market and the bear market. We mark it from the prior bear market low to the bull market high to then the bear market low. And then again here we can see for this one, right? For this cycle, we mark the bear market low to the bull market high to then the bear market low, and it projects us with this highlighted area. We can see that during the green area, we see a really bullish period for BTC, and going into the red period is when we start to top out. So essentially I'm looking for Bitcoin to top anywhere from October 2025 and as far as, you know, November 2026. So quite a large window, but anywhere from October, this is when I'm going to start to be more aware of a cycle top and more aware of the potential for a cycle top and a breakdown in the market. So, you know, we've got that area highlighted, and we have to pay attention to that area for a top signal. So now I want to touch on what I think is one of the best kept secrets in crypto, or essentially Bitcoin higher time frame, and this is the Bitcoin power law. I'm not going to get too much into the ins and outs of it, more so the correlation to what we're seeing this cycle compared to old cycles, but I highly suggest that if you don't know what this is, you go and check it out. Now I've noticed it, I can't unsee it, but it's basically a mathematical formula that calculates the Bitcoin, the correlation between Bitcoin and the time since its inception. It basically calculates that, historically speaking, you know, the minimum price of Bitcoin has been 58% below its fair value price, and that is the point at which price always bottoms in the bear markets, right? We can see that here. This is the line charts that are not showing wicks essentially, but this is the fair value for Bitcoin, right? This blue line, the Bitcoin powered law, and then the lower darker blue line, this is the Bitcoin power law floor, which essentially is minus 58% from the fair value. And if you remember what I said, at some point Bitcoin always gets this break from fair value, and we're really yet to see that in this cycle. And maybe this is down to the new sort of trend and environment that we're trading in, but overall I do think that we see this expansion from the fair value at some point, and I think it's coming very soon. So if we look at the Bitcoin power law chart on TradingView, we can see that, you know, as we were just discussing, we're kind of still trading around and inside this fair value area, right? The fair value is very niche depending on certain indicators, right? We can see I have two indicators here that the center is kind of different than the fair value, but you can see that almost every time Bitcoin bottoms towards minus 58% of its fair value from the mean. And what I've done here is I've added a resistance band at 100% of higher than the fair value, which I think is completely reasonable. But you can see every cycle at some point we break from above the fair value and we get this expansion, which then, you know, we see price have a bear market because price then has to find fair value again. So we form an imbalance and then we sell off. If we sort of mark this October, November area with the current 100% resistance band with the Bitcoin powered law that targets us around 230k, and I actually think 230k is quite a conservative price, a completely reasonable and conservative price, but that's something I'm setting my eyes on for now. We can also see with the resistance band, right, how it has marked a cycle top every time. And again, if like I said, we're marking it up with our fib sequence, we have a very nice window here between October and November to go to 230k, which I think is a completely reasonable price target for Bitcoin. That is only 100% from current prices, which is completely normal, right? We can see when we broke from the band last cycle, that was over 300%, the cycle before 700%, cycle before that 2,800%, and obviously it's depreciating the percentage, but overall I think this is a very nice target, and I'm very positive on the future of crypto, especially going into Q4 of this year. So now to finally touch on altcoins, I've discussed this a lot in the past, but we get these very small windows of opportunity for altcoins, usually around a month, and they tend to come when Bitcoin, 40 days, 40 days, 30 days. We can see that once Bitcoin breaks out, right, the trend that I just discussed, right, we get this breakout, we get these, and the range breakout, we get these very small windows and fantastic opportunities on altcoins. We can see here, this is the total 3 chart on BTC. We can see how altcoins rally every time Bitcoin breaks out, and now we've confirmed this breakout. I think we can expect total 3 to trade to 1.2 to 1.5 trillion over the next few months, and into Q4 even higher. I believe that we're still very early in terms of altcoins, and that they have a very good window of opportunity to come to them, especially over the next month or so. This is a very important period where you can make a lot of gains in a short period of time, especially with this breakout. At some point we will probably chop and bracket again before a breakout again, but overall this is going to be a really nice window of opportunity. If a setup looks good, it most likely is a very good setup. Now the last thing to touch on is, if you remember that chart I showed you at the start of the video with the DXY, with the Bitcoin correlation, if we now pair it to the total 3, we can see that during this period how the total 3 reacted. Very positive and bullish period for total 3. Obviously altcoins have been a little bit of a letdown this cycle. They haven't performed as well simply due to the dominance of Bitcoin. I do believe that with a good window of opportunity going into Q4, we can see a really nice rally from altcoins and total 3 pairing up with what is done in prior cycles. That pretty much wraps it up for this high time frame market outlook. I'm looking at pretty much all things but ETH, and I might do one in the future on ETH. Make sure you check out all my socials in the link below, and the link to join the Discord is down there as well. Going to be a good time to lock in at the moment. Like I said, next month or so it's going to be very bullish. We'll be able to get a lot of gains in a short period of time, and I will see you guys next week for my Tuesday market review. Bye bye.